Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for y'all. So today I've got a pretty unique deck for you here. It's one that doesn't play any monster or trap cards. It's 40 spells. That's going to be Sky Striker Runick. So I got to give a huge shout out to Stevie Blunder who did a primer for this deck about a week ago, I think, at the time of recording this. So I'm going to go ahead and link that in the description below. As always, if I haven't done that yet, please feel free to yell at me until I do, and I'll make sure that link gets in the description there. So you can check out his very detailed description of how the deck works and whatnot. Now, this build is going to be a little bit different from the one that he was using, mostly because at the current moment I only have the one triple tactics talent, which is a card that I'm probably going to end up crafting out a set of eventually, but I'm not as up on this card, in Master Duel in particular, as I think a lot of people are. I don't think it's bad, but I don't know, for the most part, I just don't really ever have room for it in the 40, to be honest. Now, this deck obviously is going to be an exception to that, but the differences, I believe, in our list are CV's playing a set of triple tactics talent. I'm playing, instead of 2 talents, I'm playing a third Runick Fountain and a Terraforming, just to get access to the Fountain a little bit more consistently. But you don't even need that much access to Fountain in a deck like this, because this deck, while it does have a, half of it is Runick cards, it actually doesn't necessarily need the Runick package to win. So having the extra utility of the triple tactics talent, I think is definitely worth it. So again, I'm only using the 1 copy because I currently only have 1 copy, and I am definitely saving my craft points for, I think, reasons we all know at this point. So yeah, Sky Striker Runick. I've been having a lot of fun playing around with this deck. It plays very differently than both Sky Striker and Runick individually. Well, I guess it depends which variant of Runick. It does play, the general Runick strategy of, milling the opponent out, and from my personal experience, that tends to be how I win the game, but you can also just control the opponent down as well. This is a deck that is very much capable of doing both, because, as we know, the Runick spells, of course, they mill, they banish, we all know that, but they're also just good utility and control spells in their own right, like, the Flashing Fire and the Freezing Curses to handle your opponent's monsters, and of course, Destruction to handle back rows. So there are a lot of games that you'll win by milling, but it's honestly like incidental milling as you're like just controlling your opponent down with the Runick spells. And of course we have the Sky Striker spells to control them down with as well, the Widow Anchor being one of the big control tools there. The release of Linkage is very much what makes this deck possible, as before, obviously, you didn't really have access to the Sky Striker extra deck unless you ran monsters. But now that we have Linkage, we don't have to run, Ray or Rose in order to get our Sky Striker links into play. So we're not going to be OTKing, we don't do that with Linkage in this deck, but it is, again, just a non-monster out in order to get to the Sky Striker links. So mainly the idea of this deck, again, like I said, is, aside from milling, just controlling the opponent down. We don't have floodgates to do that because, again, we're just playing 40 spell cards, but, all the same, it's pretty easy to do that with just the sheer amount of disruption that we have here. As far as, like, how I think this deck performs in the current meta, I think it's fine. I don't necessarily think it's better than Sky Striker or Runick individually, but I don't think it's, like, much worse than either of them either. I think I personally do prefer, if I'm going to play Sky Striker, I personally would probably prefer just like the quote-unquote pure Sky Striker with the Linkage. I haven't tried it with the Therions. I don't know, when DPE and Adventure came to Sky Striker and I tried that, the going first package with that, I wasn't really thrilled by it, I'm not going to lie, even when, we had more copies of Water Enchantress and Fusion Destiny to make it, more worthwhile running that package. I'm still honestly not super up on that in Sky Striker, so I'm a little bit hesitant to try Therion Regulus in Sky Strikers as well, to go out of my way to craft it for that deck, when I don't know, again, the pure going second Linkage OTK build has been just performing very well for me. So for the time being, that's what I'm going to continue to use. But if I see like the Therion build putting up decent results, I'm more than willing to try that out as well. This I kind of built just more for fun, just because I happen to have like pretty much everything needed for the deck already. So I was like, yeah, I'll try this Sky Striker variant out. And it's funny, like, I remember reading at some point that, oh, this build's like kind of a meme. I think it was even on like the Master Duel meta. There's somewhere on one of the guides, I think, that was like, I think it was the Runick walkthrough actually itself that said, like, it was listing all the variants, and I was like, oh, Sky Striker Runick's a bit of a meme, and like, I don't know. I think this is a little bit like a half. I don't know about a half step, but it's definitely a step above meme tier in my opinion. It's definitely a very viable deck, a very solid rogue deck at the very least. So let's go ahead and break it down card by card, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at some games with it. So we're playing 1 Terraforming, 3 Pot of Desires, 2 Sky Striker Mobilize Engage, 1 Sky Striker Maneuver Afterburner, 1 Sky Striker Maneuver Jamming Waves, 1 Triple Tactics Talent, 3 Runick Fountain, 1 Sky Striker Mecha Modules Multirole, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Sky Striker Mecha Hornet Drones, 3 Sky Striker Mecha Widow Anchor, 2 Sky Striker Mecha Shark Cannon, 3 Sky Striker Mobilize Linkage, 3 Runick Tip, 3 Runick Flashing Fire, 3 Runick Destruction, 3 Runick Freezing Curses, 3 Runick Slumber, and then finally 1 Runick Smiting Storm. That's going to round out the main deck. Extra deck is going to have 2 Hugin, the Runick Wings, 1 Munin, the Runick Wings, 1 Geri, the Runick Fangs, 2 Sky Striker Ace Kagari, 3 Sky Striker Ace Shizuku, 3 Sky Striker Ace Hayate, 1 Sky Striker Ace Kaina, 1 Knightmare Phoenix, and then finally 1 Sky Striker Ace Zeke. And that's going to round out the list as a whole there. Again, if you're looking for a very detailed and thorough breakdown of this deck, not just card by card what the cards are, but it's each card's role in the deck, I would definitely advise checking out Stevie's primer on the deck, which again, I will have linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at some gameplay. Alrighty, so our first opponent that we're going to be playing against here is Mathmech, of course. Anyone else who is playing a lot, particularly in Diamond level, can attest that it's just Mathmech mirror matches for days, which is totally fine with me because, I don't know, I find that matchup very engaging. I find playing Mathmech in general fairly engaging, so I'm fairly down with this meta. But anyway, they're of course going to lead with who else but Circular, following up with the Sigma summon. And I think, again, those of you who've played against Mathmech quite a bit, which is probably a decent amount of you who are playing Ranked Ladder, are very familiar with this line by this point. Yep, so with the Diameter in hand, they do now have the full setup there, the 3 Mathmechs and the Super Factorial. So we will have to play through a live Super Factorial, but, you know, it's not the end of the world. Now here, the opponent does diverge a bit. I should have actually looked at their extra deck. Maybe they aren't playing Link Disciple and Devotee, but we're going to end up seeing them end on a Transcode Talker plus Heat Soul setup, which is interesting. You know, this is an alright line, but I think I definitely prefer the Link Disciple and Devotee line, personally, myself. The Heat Soul is good to end on, but as many of you point out in the comments, and I am now very much seeing myself, being able to end on Appaloosa plus the Super Factorial is just so good. It's so good. Alright, so yeah, we draw for turn, getting the Runick Slumber. We actually like getting another Runick card here. I'm going to start with the Destruction on one of the back row. I figure if it's Super Factorial, I can just force it now. If it's not, then that's fine. We'll just blow up whatever it is. It's not, it's Called by the Grave, which doesn't do anything to us because obviously we don't play any monsters. So we at the very least get to banish the top 3, so there's that. Anyway, I'm going to use the Tip to go for a Fountain here before using Flashing Fire, not to blow up one of my opponent's monsters, but actually just to special summon one of my monsters. Opponent's going to chain Maxi in response, but I'd like to get a Hugin search for the Fountain here, because I can not only draw 3 cards off of this Fountain, but if I get this Fountain search, then I should also be able to draw 2 off of the follow-up Fountain, so... Yep, like a regular, or like any Runick deck, really, you know, you want to be trying to get multiple Fountain draws per turn if possible. Yeah, I decided to run out the Terraforming for the last Fountain here just cuz, you know, and my opponent did actually end up using an effect on my turn with the Heat Soul, so, you know, I am immediately starting to see, especially in this deck, how good Triple Tactics Talent can be. Again, I want to emphasize that I don't think Triple Tactics Talent is a bad card. That's not why I don't, go out of my way to play it. I just... For me, it's one of those cards that, it just never makes the final 40. There's always cards that I would rather play over it, honestly, in just about any given deck, but... again, this is actually a deck where we not only have the space for Triple Tactics Talent, but it's also just very good in general. The advantage that it supplies can very often make up for any shortcomings your hand has. So here I'm going to take control of the Heat Soul. I'm going to use the effect to draw another card. It's another Flashing Fire, so I can't really do anything with that, but, you know, it's not the end of the world by any means. Once again, I'm really looking to force this super factorial, which I'm actually astounded my opponent hasn't flipped yet. Now that I think about it, like, how did my opponent not flip this up on the first Runick Fountain is what I want to know. Because at that point, they didn't know that I had the other two Runick, or the access to the other Runick Fountains. So I'm kind of astounded, yeah, this hasn't been activated yet. I definitely think my opponent should have activated it a long time ago. But I don't know. Okay, so here's the thing. Maybe my opponent thought Laplacian destroys, because I've encountered that a lot on ladder. Like, I've encountered opponents who will play in such a way that it's clear they think Laplacian destroys, but, and maybe because I had Hugin, they thought they would be able to get rid of my fountain, but, you know, Laplacian does not destroy, it sends. It also doesn't target, so, this card is just absurd for multiple reasons. But anyway, yeah, it's funny. As soon as they saw I had my third fountain, which they knew I had because I terraforming for it in addition to using Hugin on the first one. But I guess at that point my opponent decided they just had enough and decided to concede. So that's fair enough, you know. All right, so GG's practice. I guess they're practicing their Runick or Math Mech deck there. Jeez. All right, now let's go ahead and move on to the next duel. Alright, this one's going to be against a 60-card branded Dark World deck. I think actually the rest of our games are like all against 60-card decks. It's funny, like, as soon as I got to Diamond 1, like, I just saw like a huge, I think I've talked about this already, like a huge increase in the number of 60-card decks I played against. I think it's not only people messing around in Diamond 1, but also, like, you know, everyone wants to give their last hurrah to the, that grass looks greener while it's at 3. Although, to be fair, and we'll cover this pretty soon here, I've been testing grass builds with only 2 grass. Dragon Link is the first one I've tested, and, you know, so far, I'm impressed with how it plays post-banless build, but we'll get into that when we get to that video there. But in any case, the opponent is definitely spoiled for choice here. It seems like they've got multiple grasses as they just pitched one for Lubellion there, so. Yeah, at this point, I'm pretty much just playing against Branded Despia. They're not really doing any Dark World stuff. They're just, yep, sending the Albion to banish the Aliber, to set up the, well, I imagine they were going to set up Branded Red, but they actually have Branded Banishment, so I'm like, okay, maybe the other face down is Branded Red. Although, maybe, like, if I look at their graveyard, they must have only had the 1 copy of Branded Red, maybe 2. Who knows, but either way, I'm going to start off with my engages here. I really would have liked to have drawn a card, and usually you can draw a card off of engage, like, almost every time in this deck, but this hand is a little weird, because, like, I don't have any Runick stuff besides the Fountain, and then I just have this, like, Triple Tactics talent I can't really use, so, like, yeah, I could have, like, maybe done Called By, or, like, maybe used Widow Anchor, and then I could have drawn off the 3rd engage, but at that point, like, we're just throwing out these cards in our hand, that we can potentially benefit off of. Like, at this point, I'm not looking to get the benefit of drawing cards off of Engage. I'm more looking to steal this Mirror Jade with Widow Anchor. So I'm going to use Jamming Waves on one of the back rows, and of course chaining Linkage to the Jamming Waves so I can sack it. Basically linkaging for quote-unquote free, as opposed to, like, spending an actual card to do it. What actually was our opponent's card there? It was, oh, the Sanctified Dark Lord. Okay, yeah, no, that was definitely not going to be an issue here. So, going to use the Widow Anchor to take control of my opponent's monster. They've got the Branded Banishment, but we do have the Call By here. So that's going to be a pretty easy win for us there. And if you actually notice that duel, again, as I pointed out earlier, we did not even have to use, like, a single Runick card. And that's kind of what I was talking about in the profile earlier, where, like, yes, most of the time your win con is going to be, like, ultimately milling your opponent out over time. But even more than being a mill deck, this is very much a control deck. And we just very, like, I don't know about easily necessarily, but because we had multiple engages, we were able to easily control our opponents down, taking care of their back row. Of course, we're going to link away the Mirror Jade after stealing it with the Widow Anchor. And then I believe at that point our opponent only had 2 cards left in their hand, 3 when they drew for turn. But, you know, moral of the story is, like, we definitely had that game on lock, and that is obviously what every control deck would like to do. So, yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the next duel here. And indeed, we do have yet another 60-card deck that we're going to be playing against here. This one's going to be a 60-card variant of Branded Predaplant. Oh, gotta love the opponents with the Ghost Trick field. Like, the piano and the bunny are cute, but I like the table too. I like the sound effect that the table makes. So yeah, opponent's going to lead off directly with a Polymerization into a Masquerade. Let's see, it looks like they used Ad Libitum of Despia and the Predaplant Darlington. So yeah, their hand doesn't look like it was too, or Darlington, whatever, Cobra, right? Yeah, it looks like their hand wasn't too great. So yeah, we do have this Masquerade to contend with, and that is like not a non-issue. You know, the 600 life points is something we're gonna have to address like pretty much sooner rather than later. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to linkage for Kaina, just because I'm going to link it away along with the token. I'm just going to use Zeke to get my opponent's Masquerade out of here. Just because, like, yeah, I'm really not trying to pay 600. This is actually a deck that loses, well, most Runick decks, I guess, to be fair, lose pretty hard to Masquerade. But this deck in particular loses pretty hard to even a single Masquerade. Yeah, opponents using Ash on the Pot of Desires is totally fine here. Oh yeah, I decided to set the Runick Destruction here just in case my opponent, like, you know, randomly destroyed the Runick Fountain, but I'm just going to engage and then pass over to my opponent. Who I guess then concedes because they don't have... I mean, they only had 2 cards left in their hand, to be fair. So, yeah, that was actually a pretty quick duel. But, you know, it just goes to show that, like, the Masquerade... Especially when you're playing Runicks, like, pretty much any Runick variant, like I said, Masquerade... Actually, take note if you're playing branded Despia. Masquerade is, like, easily the best card you can have against that deck. Again, even 1 against this particular variant is pretty quickly lethal. But having 2, or even honestly just 1 against a regular Runick deck is equally contentious to their game plan of, you know, activating a bunch of cards and trying to stay alive in the process. So, all right, we have, I think, 1 more game, 1 or 2 more games. Let's just go ahead and go into the next duel. And yep, we do in fact have yet another 60 card deck that we're playing against. This one is going to be Adamantipator this time around. Alright, we actually get to go first this time, so that's pretty... Although, I guess to be fair, we went first last time as well. This hand's looking pretty good. You know, we like any hand we open Runick Fountain and just, you know, a bunch of Runick spells. So, opponent's got the Max C. That's fine. I don't really care about that. Actually, you know, I do have Linkage in hand, so I slightly do care about that a little bit. Yeah, because I'm probably not going to Linkage this turn where I normally otherwise would have, so... It might also depend on when I draw off the Fountain here. Let's see. Only Fountaining for 2, but, you know, it's definitely better than nothing. Yeah, okay, so the opponent's got a Droll and Lockbird anyway, but that's actually totally fine, because if you look at the rest of my hand, I didn't have any more action anyway, so... Between the Max C, too, like, I didn't want to Linkage to give them another draw, so... yeah, if my opponent wants to throw out the Joel Knock here, that is actually completely fine. This is, like, probably the one... This is, like, the one situation where Joel Knockbird doesn't do anything to this deck, which, by the way, I'm going to get on my soapbox again about this card, because I haven't enough. I really haven't enough. This card is incredible. I've seen and had a lot of people ask, like, in comments, like, what's a good tech card against Runick? And also just in general in this format. Joel Knockbird. This card is incredible right now. It severely hits, like, literally every single deck in the meta that's not Sword Soul. And even then, it can sometimes still hurt Sword Soul. Basically, the only time you can really use this effectively against Sword Soul is if they emergence, like, first. Like, if they emergence for the Moye to start their play. Then you can use Joel Knockbird, and then they don't get the... Moye draw, and they don't get the Chisao Search either. So, aside from that, it doesn't really hurt them. But like Math Mech, for example, you know, you Joel and Lock off the Cynet Mining or Small World, they're just done. They can't do anything else for the whole turn. You know, Runick, obviously, you do it on the Hugin, rather, the Hugin Search or the Terraforming or whatever, and then there's no Fountain draws that turn. Yeah, I don't need to explain it. Like, literally every single deck in this meta that's not Sword Soul gets, like, severely hampered by this card. And again, even Sword Soul in certain situations also get hampered by it. Yeah, it looks like they whiffed off the Adamantipator Analyzer there, but they have Gigantes in hand, so they're going to go for the Dragite anyway. Dragite I'm totally fine with, actually. In the grand scheme of things, I don't really care what all it ends up bouncing, because I can just play all the spells from my hand again anyway. And if they bounce the extra deck monster, I'm like, I don't care, that's fine. But again, they got pretty unlucky with the reveals there. They actually only ended up, bouncing too. And actually, I don't know if my opponent realized this, but they could have actually prevented the Kaina effect here if they had chosen to bounce Kaina, because then it wouldn't have been on the field at the end of the chain link, and its effect wouldn't have had a chance to activate. But, you know, they chose not to bounce it, which is totally fine. I guess I decided to bounce the Fountain in the back row because I thought maybe I had a Runick spell to activate in hand, but I didn't, so I haven't been giving them prompts, like, to activate cards all game here. So, honestly, I'm not really sure why they chose to bounce the Fountain here, but the back row makes sense. But again, if they'd hit Kaina, their Dragite would be able to attack here. So they do have a Doki Doki for another Analyzer. Looks like that level 4 was the last one in their hand, which is definitely unlucky for. It feels like my opponent got pretty unlucky in general here, whiffing on those Excavates, and then also only having a level 4 monster to reveal off Doki Doki, or discard when they'd already used the Analyzer. Yeah, so again, because of Kaina, the Dragite can't attack this turn, so they can only battle with Raptite, and then I get my linkage back thanks to the Mecha modules here. And at that point, my opponent just straight up conceded, which I was really disappointed by because I actually really wanted to play this game out. Like, if you look at my hand was actually not that great. It's kind of, I know it's blurred now, so it's hard to see, but, you know, my hand was the Jamming Waves, the Shark Cannon, and then the 2 Fountains. I guess, to be fair, the Shark Cannon, I'm pretty sure it was live. Obviously, I can't check my graveyard anymore, but I imagine I probably had 3 spells in grave. Although maybe with modules resetting linkage I didn't. But even if I didn't, I could linkage send modules. There's +2 spells in my grave. So, like, yeah, what I was gonna do was so dependent on what I was gonna draw for this turn, and then my opponent didn't even let me. I didn't even get to see before my opponent conceded. You know, to be fair, I guess, you know, this is we're in Diamond 1, which is the point in ladder where, like, you know, people are just kind of concede. They don't really care about rank anymore. But at the same time, it's like, it's such a unique problem I have is trying to, like, make content, like, as a content creator, of like, just let me play the games out. So, in any case, though, yeah, I think that's about all the time that we're going to end up having for this video. So yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and move on to the outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack. You'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation. You do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot, as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now. So without further ado, this is XLex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.